Hi and welcome to my tutorial on how to turn an ordinary towel, just like this one, into a beautiful gift for a new baby with a hooded towel, 3 flannels and burp cloth. First of all, what do you need? You're going to need a standard size bath towel. These ones I picked up from Briscoes for about $5 on sale. Then you're going to want to choose some plain cotton fabrics to bind the edges of the towel and also to make something a bit special for the hood. I prefer to use a small print for around the edge of the towel. It just shows up a bit better. In this case, I've chosen a plain blue and white gingham. Of course, if you've got a gorgeous large print hanging around at home like this one, you can always use that for the special applique on the hood. Alright, so where do we start? First thing we've got to do is pull apart the towel and start cutting that into the pieces we're going to need. The great thing about this pattern is it uses almost every single bit of the towel and fabric that you get out of the towel. To start off with, you want to identify if your towel has got any kind of ridged pattern in it. If it does, just like this one here, you want to use that end first. If it's on both ends, it doesn't matter, and it's not a problem if it hasn't got it. But if it does, make sure that you start with that end. Fold the towel in half and lay it on your cutting board, and take your rotary cutter and your ruler, and the first thing we want to do is get rid of the binding on the edge. So cut that straight off. Just like that. From there, you want to measure an 8.5-inch strip from that edge. So take your ruler and make sure you've got it nice and straight to do an 8.5-inch strip. Once you've got your strip, pop the rest of the towel to one side for now and take your strip and subcut it into 8.5-inch squares. You should get 3 of them out of your average towel. Again, make sure you cut off the binding. Make it as square as you possibly can, although it is tricky sometimes with the towel and fabric. And cut your squares. There's one pile. Put those 3 off to one side and go back to the rest of your towel. At this point, you should have one edge that's been cut, that's where you took your strip set, and that's the edge that we want to continue focusing on. Take the top corner and take it over to create a triangle meeting along the top. So you've got a triangle shape and a nice clear edge there. The idea here is to make the square that's ultimately going to be the base of your hooded towel. You could do it by measuring, but I find that each towel is slightly different in its size, so the best way to get a perfect square is just to get that triangle. Good tip here, if you go slightly in from the edge, you can cut off some more of that binding rather than having to go back and cut it later. And there we go, easy as that. You've got your square ready for the hooded towel. Right, now for the last bit that you've got, just the end of the towel. Now I'm going to describe this one as you would for a towel with that little bit of pattern on it. If yours doesn't have it, don't worry about it. We'll talk a bit about what to do later. So the first thing you're going to do is cut off the binding edge, which I've already done. And then you're going to take your ruler and find the measurement from the corner down to where you've got that little bit of pattern. So in this case it's 9 inches. So I'm going to go 9 inches in from the outside edge and cut that. So now we've got a rectangle, and by cutting off the piece with the pattern in it, it becomes a 9-inch square. Yours could be 12 inches, it could be 8 inches, just as big as it is. Now what you want to do is cut that on the diagonal to make the triangle for the hood. So you will have one beautiful triangle for the hood of your towel. From the last little bit, we're going to get the pieces for our bird cloth. Again, every towel can be a little bit different, so best to measure and see how much you've got left. In this case, I've got 18. So I can go to a width of 9. So I'm going to cut my first one from the edge (9 inches). And so now you've got your 2 pieces that are rectangle and will become your bit cloth. You've got a triangle for the hood of your hooded towel. You've got 3 small squares to be your flannels. And last but not least, a nice big square to be the base of your towel.